I can't actually see you, but it's nice to know that you're here. So I'm speaking both to the folks that are here in AirMe and to our streaming audience more broadly. Thank you very much for coming to this. This is a bit of an unusual thing that we're doing. We're just doing a kind of one-off webinar, just to sort of give everybody, it's back to school season, kind of like back to school with Hindenburg. Here's an overview of Pro, because we have changed to a new version of Pro. We did it about getting on a year ago now. So it's just known as Pro, but I wanted to just kind of give an overview because some folks still might not be aware of it. Some folks are new. There are a lot of new features, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So before we get into things and do a deep dive here, let's just talk about a few things with AirMeet, okay? So for those folks who have not been here before in terms of AirMeet, a few things about it. In the center screen, you should see an area where you can have some emojis. And if you would like to click on that, some reaction emojis, you can let me know with thumbs ups and that kind of thing, how all that is, okay? And you don't have to either. But anyway, it looks like this. It comes on the screen. Always appreciated. Thank you so much. Another thing, just on the right side, there are two areas to communicate in. One of them is the chat. And if you go into the chat right now, you'll see that some folks have been talking a little bit back and forth. And I'm going to put some links in there in a moment. And the first link is going to answer a question. Okay, so you can ask questions in the chat, but I'm not going to be able to see it because I just have too many things going on. But if you put any questions that you have into the Q&A area, which is on the right side of your screen, just beneath the chat, then I can actually put those questions onto the screen at the end of the presentation. There'll be a little time for Q&A, okay? So I'm going to answer, though, a question that I know is going to come up anyway, and that is, will this be replayed? And the answer to that is yes, it will be replayed in our Facebook community. So what I'm going to do is put a link to that and two other links into the chat right now. And I'll put these in again at the end, okay? So I just put these in now, a few links for you. The first one is for our Facebook community. If you're not already a member, it's a great place to just have resources, see replays of events, things like that. And the next two links are our next two events that we have this month. Once a month, we do an AMA session with an expert from some part of the industry. Really exciting one this month. It's Joe from voiceactor.com. So if you're into the voice acting world community, it's all about that. But it's also going to be very interesting because he's an SEO savant. So if you're wondering what SEO is, how any of that stuff works, that would be a good one to come to. Definitely an expert in that. And then our office hours. So once a month, we're going to do, or we do an office hours, and that is where we just do a very short presentation on some feature of Hindenburg that you may or may not be aware of. And then we get into, we just break out to tables where you can ask a Hindenburg teacher like myself or not, the rest of our staff, a question and all that kind of stuff. So it's more of like an office hours with a brief presentation. Okay. That's all the stuff, I think. All right. So I'm just going to get right into things. We're going to go through them fast. It's going to be an overview of all the things in 2.0, or at least a lot of the things in 2.0. Okay. So be that as it may, and I doubt it ever was, I'm going to do this. All right. So let's get into what I'm on about here. All right. So welcome to the webinar. All right. Excuse me here. Okay. So the webinar features to make your life easier. So again, we're just going to do an overview of all of these features, and we're going to start with, the basics and build up from there. Okay. So basic things. The whole idea and approach of Hindenburg, for those folks who don't know, is that it is a DAW, meaning a digital audio workspace. But unlike other DAWs that were designed for making music and then adapted for this, this was made specifically for making vocal audio, podcasts, news productions, etc. Okay, so let's just get in there and just talk about some basic things with arming the track and kind of how it works with auto levels, doing pickups and that kind of thing. But the whole approach with Hindenburg is that if you can eliminate some parts of the tedium of the workflow, you can make it go faster. It's just a lot easier to use. You get your product out the door faster. So a lot of the design and the workflow is meant to make the final product right at the beginning as you're going. Okay. So with that, we are going to get right into it. So here is Hindenburg. When you first open it up, we're going to open up a number of other windows, transcription and video and all that stuff. But first, just to get going, let's talk about some basics, okay? You have your tracks over here on the left side. It opens up with 4 as a kind of standard. You can customize this as much as you like. And then you have some kind of basic file stuff up here. It's fairly simple. If you just want to open it up and do a simple recording, it's pretty easy to do. If you go over to the right side, here's all the track info. This speaker icon that's up here, if you are plugging in directly with a USB mic, you'd be using that to control your input volume. If you're using an interface like I am, you're basically not going to do that much with that. And you would pick your microphone that you want to use in this lower drop-down menu here, okay? So I'm actually going to change it, and I'm going to pick this microphone. All right. So here's the microphone I want to use, and once I click the arm track button, which is this red bullseye looking button here, you see that my voice is starting to be picked up. It's starting to be registered, right? Okay, so some other things. I'm just going to do this here. Sorry, if yours looked a little different, let's look at this. Get rid of some of these windows. There's a transport bar down here. I just realized that wasn't showing. So this is also how you would it would look when you opened it up. Kind of some basic stuff there. You know, start, record, go back to the beginning, all that kind of stuff. This is a meter that's down here. There's the time. A lot of, you know, kind of just basic function things here. Okay. But once I click this on, you see that I'm starting to you know, I'm ready to record. By the way, there's a hotkey for that, which is just the key R. I always do that. I actually don't go over here and do this manually. I just press R when I'm ready to record on a track. And now I'm going to be recording. I'm going to press Control R or Command R. Okay. And then now I'm starting to record. So here we see my voice being picked up by the system. That's the waveform. And when it's recording, it's in red. Okay. When I stop recording, you're going to see 2 things happen. Okay. Good. It changed color. And then hopefully you saw that it kind of ducked down a little bit. And that is the auto level feature. Okay. So Hindenburg is set up so that you can auto level it as you go. What that means is that when you record something, if I was to record another take, which I'll do in a second, it will match the 2 takes. It will also match any audio that you have coming in. So if you import somebody with a loud voice and somebody with a quiet voice, it basically matches them. So you don't have to do so much of this stuff after the fact. You kind of doing it all as you go. So a very handy tool there. Okay. Let's just talk about some things with the waveform. All right. So this is what the waveform looks like. Let's talk about your tool here. So when you have this, this is my mouse here. Okay, when I'm at the bottom of the waveform, it gives me this I-beam tool, and that's how I can make selections like this. There'll be a lot of reasons for doing that, which you'll see later. If I'm in about the center of this waveform, it's going to turn into this pointer tool, and that's so I could click on the region and, you know, make copies of it or just move stuff around or other things like that. So sometimes you'll need to grab it. Sometimes you'll need to make a selection for editing or other things. Okay. If I'm at about the side of the region, it turns into this trimmer tool, and this allows you to trim audio away or reveal audio. So if I did a cut that was here and I wanted, well, there's a better way to show this. If I cut this out here and I go to the trimmer tool that is here, I can just get back that audio that I cut away. Okay. And then at the top, it's that same trimmer tool, except this is actually how you would adjust the volume. Okay. So if I make a selection and isolate this, I can just turn the volume of this part up or down. So that's how you do it. And that's actually very handy because there's no automation window that you would have in other programs. So just dealing with the volume is a whole other thing in music-based DAWs. And here you just grab it. It's very tactile in the approach. So I always like that. But let me show you a little bit about what this auto level feature does when you're doing a pickup. Okay, so I'm going to play back some of this audio. Okay, when I stop recording, you're going to see 2 things happen. All right, so I said 2 things happen. All right, and I'm going to do a pickup. Okay, meaning I'm just going to record from here and move forward. So when I start recording again, it's going to do it at the point of this playhead, which is the white line, but it's going to give a couple seconds of pre-roll. Pre-roll just plays the part that you're keeping so that you can match yourself. Okay, so let's do that. Oh, of course, I turned the pre-roll off. Well, let me show you how you get to turn the pre-roll on and off. So you would go to, I'm on a Mac, so this would be in settings. If you are on Windows, this will be in tools. There'll be the same thing. It's called options, okay? But either way, it opens up this menu here. This is where you can customize some things, and you can record with pre-roll. So I'm going to turn that on. Okay. So now you'll see, now that that's on, what it's going to do is it's going to start recording here, but give me a couple seconds of pre-roll. After recording, you're going to see two things happen. You're going to see that I cut off the word. So don't do that. But you're also going to see that when I stop recording this section, it's going to match the volume. And there we go. So it matches my two separate takes. Okay. So that's just the basics of recording and the basics of what you're looking at. I should say also, here in AirMeet, we are in a browser. So for me showing you some of these examples, you're definitely going to want to put this in full screen on your browser, okay, just so you can see it, see everything there, okay? So once again, I won't be able to keep up with the chat just because I can't do all the things at the same time. But if you do have a question, put it in the Q&A because we're going to try to leave some time at the end for questions, all right? I'm going to share my screen again. By the way, can I get a thumbs up? Everybody heard the example and is hearing what I'm saying? All right. See, that's the beauty of the reactions bar there. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'm going to start sharing again and we're going to move on. So far, if you're used to the older version of Hindenburg, that's, fairly similar. Okay. There are some differences in how it looks, but functionally, it's kind of all the same, at least so far. But we're going to move on from that to other things, okay? So that's recording, how you'd arm a track, auto level, doing a punch-in, a pickup. We talked about pre-roll. And again, the whole the whole, I don't know, it seems a bit much. But the whole approach of Hindenburg, is to make life easier, okay? So understanding regions, we talked about where that volume knob is. One thing I'm going to show you next is colors, which is a different feature. The handles, how that stuff works. And then we're just going to look at some basic editing things with splitting, cutting, deleting, and all that kind of stuff. So let's go back to our example here and just talk about a few kind of general things. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it easier. Okay. And we're going to go from here. By the way, if you want to do that, there's a key command for that. If you do Control on Windows or Command on Mac and plus and minus, it zooms in or out. Okay, so this is zooming in and this is zooming out. You can also do that by these up here. If you hold Shift and Command or Shift Control for Windows and you do plus or minus, it will raise the track height. Okay, so just something you can do there. So anyway, hopefully that's a little bit easier to see. Let's talk about this color shenanigans. So there's some new visuals here with the waveforms. I think it's a great feature. You now can open up a colors window. Okay, there are two places you can do that. So the first place that is probably more important, actually, there's it's not in the view window. It's in the, if you do a right click on the region, you have the option to open up colors. Okay. And there is, and it's called show/hide colors. Okay. And there's a key command for that, which is Alt-C or Option-C for Mac. Okay. And it opens up this little dockable colors window. Okay. Like I said, you can dock it over here or whatever, however you want to do that. And what it is if you click on a region, you say, make this one yellow. Click on this region, you say, make this one orange. It'll do that. Okay. So you can differentiate your regions. You probably wouldn't do it like that on tracks. You'd probably have two regions of the same color on a track. And then when you had different regions on a different track, let's say, just for example, you'd probably change those so that you have different regions of different tracks in different colors. It's likely how you're going to use it. Okay, and I should say something about that. One thing to keep in mind is that we're going to eventually going to get to clipboards. Some of you know that stuff already. When we get to the clipboards, if you put any regions into the clipboards, they will retain that color. So that's a handy feature there. Let's talk about some basic editing. Okay, so we mentioned that if you make a selection here, how you do that, you could click and drag when it's in this I-beam mode, okay? And then there are some basic editing key tools up here. I'm gonna, I already have been, and I will continue to use some key commands, and I'm gonna try to say them every time. It can be overwhelming if you're not a key command person. But I would say, especially with using a DAW, if you could memorize maybe 5 to 10, or even just write them down, or have it on a notes app or something or other like that, just for the ones that come up that are really common. For example, I said this one where it's like R to arm tracks. I mean, it's just, it's a muscle memory thing for me, as opposed to like coming over here and doing arm, coming down here and doing arm. It can go very fast. So one of them that I would almost certainly think you would want to remember is that if you make a selection like this, if you press X, it will cut the selection. Okay, cutting means it takes that piece of audio away, but it also snaps the two regions together. Okay, as opposed to deleting, which is also called clear, that will cut it away but leave a gap there. Sometimes you want to do one or the other. That's why that's there. Okay. Do you remember when I mentioned the trimmer tool earlier? Here's a good example of where that can help you. I mean, maybe. So I cut off this part of the word when we did our pickup, but it's always still there because this is called non-destructive audio. So the stuff that's there is always actually still there. Recording, you're going to see two things happen. So I said hap, and I cut off the pen, hap pen. So if I use this trimmer tool and drag it out, now we have things happen. You're going to see, there you go. And that's a good example too, because there's a little click there. Let's say I wanted to get rid of this click. And that's this right here, this little click. So I want to get rid of that. I can do a couple of things. I could cut it away by pressing X, which will snap the regions together. Or if I wanted to leave a little space there, because I liked the space, I can press delete, and that will just cut it away. Okay, things happen. You're going to see, there you go. That's the idea. Some basic editing. So you'll have to do some of that in just knowing what you're looking at here. Okay, so that's how you do those things. Okay, volume, color, what the handles mean, splitting. I'm sorry, splitting the region. We should get into that before we get into transcription. We're going to get into splitting. Okay, so I actually showed this. So when you make a selection, actually, it's really wherever the playhead is. You can split regions, and that's the icon is up here on top. And once you do that, so that was one region, and now it's two separate regions. And you might say, well, why would I want to do that? There are many reasons. For example, if you wanted to isolate a piece of audio, like this right here, a clip of audio, you could do that. And the key command for this on both Mac and Windows is B. Just B will split this. And then you could turn the volume of it down like that, for example. Another fun thing, by the way, with the volume, the way you do fades is you actually just grab the handle and you grab it over, and you can do fades like this. So anyway, you can do crossfades as well. But fun fact, when you do split a region or cut a region, there is at any one of these seam points, there actually is a very minute crossfade that happens. A crossfade just means it fades out one part of the audio and fades in the other one. So it would fade this one out and fade this one in very, very fast. And the idea is the cut doesn't sound so abrupt. And when we get to our next feature in editing in the manuscript, that's what's going to make it so seamless when you cut words out and that kind of thing. Okay, so but that's the idea with all of that. So be that as it may. So those are our regions. Okay, and now I'm going to talk to you about how you would use them. Okay, so we're going to look at transcription. Okay, so transcription, the way that it works is we have a partnership with another company. And if you pay for a transcription package, what it will do is give you a transcript, meaning the text of your episode. And you'll have the ability to open up this new window that you can then type in and do the editing from there. So the whole idea with the workflow is you record something, and then you would transcribe it, and then from there you maybe cut out the parts you don't want, and then you'd start doing some fine tune editing. Okay, so first you got to record or import some audio, then you transcribe it. After you transcribe it, and we're going to go through this, you'll have access to open up this manuscript window, and from there you can edit the text, you can type in the text, you can actually even export the text, and that's very handy because oftentimes you will be opening up you will want that text to go to YouTube, or have a for your episode, or show notes for your podcast hosting site, and you can have an accurate transcription that you export. So you have control over everything, which is very, very handy. And one thing to keep in mind with this, the transcription is an offline feature. So it after you pay, you can do this like on a train, or you don't have to be connected to the internet, which I guess is what happens on trains. You can do the transcribing from anywhere. Okay, so let's look at how it works. And because I'm presenting this while doing this, the transcription is going to take longer for me than it will for you. Okay, so when you're doing this in real life, it's not going to take so long. By the way, you see me do this sometimes where I just go back a few steps and I cut things out. Okay, it's happened. Okay, or I undo things, or I redo things. That's this undo and redo button, and the keys for that are Control Z or Command Z. For Mac, will undo a step, and you just got to be careful there to know how many steps you're undoing. But this is a really useful thing. Like, you did something, didn't work out, you just want to undo it, go back to the way that it was, or redo. So very handy things that are easy to overlook. Okay, but moving forward to the fun world of transcription. Okay, so when I have my audio here, I want to transcribe it. There are a few places you can do this. Okay, in this Tools drop-down menu, you have the option now to transcribe. So that's one place. You also, like where we got the colors menu, if you right-click on a region, you also have the option to transcribe here. Okay, so when you do that, you will open this up, and you'll decide if you want it for multiple speakers, which language. Currently, we offer these. We're always adding more. And so we're going to transcribe this. And again, it'll take a little bit longer for me than it will for you. So I'll say, yes, start to transcribe. And the first time you do it, I think it gives you a prompt that says, are you sure? Or you want to install something or other. And then after that, you'll be able to do this, at your will. Okay. So that's the idea. And then once we do the transcribing, again, it's going to take forever with this. And if it takes too long, I will just open up a different file that we can use. There we go. Okay, so it's going to do that. And it's going to say, hey, I'm transcribing. And then it's going to say, I'm done. You say, great. And then you see one thing has happened already. The first thing, which we think is very clever, is that you actually have the transcription above the audio. You're going to see that I cut off the word. Okay, so don't do that. So there's that there. It will put that above the region, which I find very helpful. But you're also going to see that when I stop recording this section, okay, so you could do editing from there. But after you transcribe it, you have this new option. And that option is to open up this manuscript. Okay, so all of these windows that I'm opening up afterwards, like marker, clipboards, favorites, video window, all of this stuff is in the View drop-down menu. Okay, but there's of course a key command for all of these. But once you open up the manuscript window, a couple of things happen here. You're going to see that I cut off the word. Okay, so here we are in the manuscript. Now, when I click on the manuscript, it goes to that part of the recording. And then now I'm starting, and it's kind of like a little bouncing ball effect. Then now I'm starting to record. So here we see, so let's just say that because the transcription is not always perfect. Let's say we wanted to type in this and it was the wrong C or whatever, it got the word wrong. If you press return on a word here, you can retype it or whatever. Okay, you can correct things. Okay, actually was fine, but you get the idea. So that's the way that you could find everything. So you also can search in the manuscript, and it will go to certain words and highlight them in the text. Hopefully you can see that there. By the way, just a fun fact, 'cause played with transcription a fair amount. You start when you do it this way, which you're probably not going to do, just record yourself and transcribe it, especially if it's something off the cuff. You will notice that you use certain words a lot, like "see" in 4 sentences. It's there, once or twice. So anyway, what you can do though, in addition to this, which is very clever, is you can either make a selection here in the manuscript. So let's say I didn't want this sentence at all, the one where I say, that's the waveform. I just don't need it. I can make a selection here. I just clicked and dragged over the words themselves, okay? And you see here that it has made this selection here in the waveform as well, okay? And when I do that, let's say I just want this sentence, I decided I don't need it all for the final product. I'm gonna make a selection over that and press delete, okay? And it works a little bit like a text editor here, okay? So that made a cut at that point, and then we would listen back to it and hear how that worked. Picked up by the system, and when it's recording, it's actually kind of seamless, okay? So here's what it was before, okay? There was a sentence there where it sounded like this, being picked up by the system. That's the waveform, and when it's recording, if I just cut out, that's the waveform. You can go like this and press delete, okay? And then picked up by the system, and when it's recording, and that edit happened to work very well in that case. It won't always, but it did in that case because of that auto crossfade thing that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so the idea here is that you can do all the broad editing by the manuscript. You can just go through, take out the parts you don't want, type in anything that you need, and then after the fact, you can come back here and you could fine tune the editing with fades or anything else like that. Okay. In addition to all of that, there are many things about this, by the way, and I'm going to just do a broad overview because we don't have forever here, in terms of the time. So there are many more things to do with all of this, but what you also can do is you can export the manuscript as a text file, and then you would, and there are many options here. We're going to have a whole video series on all of this soon, and there are videos already that on our website which go through some of this in more depth. But that's anyway, the new way that it works. You can export this and upload it to YouTube. Okay. So with that, we're going to move on. Okay. So that's how you would do. You record something or you import something, transcribe it, and then you can just do the editing, see the words, know exactly what you have. You can export the text as well. All right. Moving on to some other things. There's so much there to get into, but we'll just move on. And if you have questions, I understand. We'll try to leave time at the end. Okay. So let's talk about some other things with these other windows. Okay. Meaning the clipboards, favorites menu, organizing multiple tracks and clips, sound design. This is a new sound library, ducks and beds, and all of that. Okay. So back in Hindenburg, I'm going to just close the manuscript for the moment, just because I think it'll be a little easier. But this is, the idea is you record something, use the manuscript, cut the parts out you don't like, and then now you can start using some of these other features in Hindenburg. First off is the clipboard. Okay, so the clipboard here, for those folks familiar with it, it works much the same way it did before, but in some ways it's different. Okay, so I am going to do some things here. So the clipboard has 4 collapsible groups. When I can take this here and I can just copy this region, let's say, and I could come into group 1 and paste it in. I just did Control C, Control V, or a Mac Command C, Command V, and then I have that clip there. Okay. In addition to that, this can be used for so many things and so many types of groupings. Okay, you also can add groups and subgroups to each part of the clipboard, so you can really organize quite a lot. That is very useful for sound design, for like if you're putting in different, let's say, clips of music for a more complicated episode, and here are my violin clips. You just have them all in one group or in a subgroup of that. Like, here are my strings with violins and cellos, and then here are my other things, because you can stack them up and just organizing them. So it's an organizational tool. And it also has another very handy feature, which is that if you have multiple clips, you can select them. By the way, I'm selecting different clips by holding down the Shift key. There are a couple ways of doing that. That's how I'm doing that here. And I'm going to do something called option dragging or Alt on Windows. You just hold down that key, and then I could drag those regions into the clipboard here. The idea is that if you did all this, you organized your file, and then you made these different clips in the clipboard, you could then clear the workspace if you wanted to, and then take these out, and they will be, even if they span multiple tracks, you can keep them there and organize this. And there are a lot of hotkeys and other things for getting clips in and out of the clipboard as well. So there's all of that. In addition, I'm not going to show this part just because we're getting low on time and I want to show you the other tracks. There is a Soundly library, which is a library of sound effects, of ambiances. So all of these other things that you have, you can just open it up in another window like this and just pop it into your session. Okay, so you can both have access to it. You can use the clipboards to organize things. I should say also with the clipboards, there are so many things you could do with this. You can import, different tracks of audio from, like music or whatever into the clipboard. You also can import an entire clipboard from a project that you've already made, and all of the clips that are in there will come into the clipboard. So if you had a project that had all this stuff in there, all these clips that you liked, you can have access to all of them in your new project as well. You just go to within the clipboard window, which is this right here. You would right click and you'd say import. There's a key for that as well. And then what you would do is when this window opens up, you would actually just pick the Hindenburg session itself that you wanted to. And then whatever clips are in that, in that session will open up there. Okay. And of course I picked an example, it's not in there, but that's the idea. And then all of those different clips will just populate here in your clipboard. Very, very handy, useful thing. There's another window called the favorites window. It's in all these windows are in the same place, the view drop down, and it's the favorites window. And it looks exactly like the clipboard with one big exception. If I open up a new session, I'm not going to save it. It's a blank session, right? It's nothing in there. If I open up the clipboards, there's nothing in the clipboards because it's a blank session. It's new, nothing's there. If I open up the favorites window, though, there is stuff there. Okay. Now, there are regions and other things there because what the favorites window allows you to do is to take bits of audio and store them in there. You have a piece of music that you like. Okay. You can just keep it in there that you're going to use in your episode. Or you have a piece of audio, a single piece of audio. That's something you can do. Or you can have a piece of audio that spans multiple tracks. And even other things like markers and other parts, you can have that and just keep it there. So if you make your intro, outro, bumpers to your episodes, anything like that, you can just put them into the favorites window and just pop everything in there. So it just, the whole idea is and it will save any automation that you did, anything like that, which I'm going to show you in just a second. This stuff, anything that you have in there will just be in the favorites like that. So your very complicated intro, outro with music and sound design coming in, you can have it all there. You only have to edit that one time. Let me just talk about the thing that I did. Let's first talk about just some very common ways of doing some of this stuff, which is ducks and sound beds. So let's say I have this little clip of audio.
Of machinery to get to the only machine.
Okay, so that's just one person speaking. And if I had a piece of music, okay, what I can do and what is very common that happens, of course, is that you have this bit of music and you want to, fade it in, okay? And I talked about that before, that what you do is you actually just grab the side of the region and drag. You also can, just go back some steps here. You also could just, if you put the playhead, which is the white line by that region, you press F, it'll do a fade there like that, okay?
He walks past the rows of machinery to get to the only machine.
Okay, so, you could fade something in like that. You also could do something, which is make a sound bed. Well, actually, let's talk about a duck first, okay? So the most common thing is probably just a fade in. The second most common kind of edit with sound, especially with music, is in an audio in a podcast setting, is to do a duck, which means that it ends up looking like this. Okay, so what that means is that there's some music that's playing, maybe loudly, and then the person starts speaking, and then you want it to duck down and then maybe come back up. Okay.
He walks past the rows of machinery to get to the only machine that's idle.
Okay, so that's the idea. I'm doing this fast, not I'm being fast and loose with these edits, but you get the idea. And all that you do with that is you make a highlight, and you pull down that bit of audio within your highlighted section, your in and out markers, which is this green and the red. And it will, when you do that, it pulls this down because we know it's the most common edit. So we just make that easy for you. You just do that and pull it down. Very, very easy. Another way of doing that very thing is, or doing a similar thing, is to make a sound bed. And that is where, let's say you wanted this music to be at full volume, but come down and have it be a soft bed underneath. Okay. The way you would do that is you would make a selection again and pull down the volume outside of the area of your selection.
He walks past the rows of machinery to get to the only machine that's idle.
Okay. And then, yeah, so you can do a lot of this stuff. You can then have it come back up. You can do all kinds of wacky stuff. Okay. But that's how the favorites window is. And then anything that you do, if you were to put this into the favorites window, it's going to be there. All of this automation and all that stuff, it's there the next time you want it. Okay. So all that stuff, the sound library and all of that. So you've recorded. This is how you can organize it. You could do all these things, but oh, wait, there's more. Organizing the story, you can use markers and cue points. Snapping regions together. There's so much there, but I'll get back to this in the Q&A area, just because I feel like we're going to run out of time, and I want to talk to you about the video track. Okay. The video track, the way it works is you're going to open a file. I'll show you how that happens, and the transcription from multiple speakers and all this stuff, and how this part works. Okay. So back here in Hindenburg. Okay. By the way, let me do this. I'm just going to check in very quickly here. Okay. Because there's a lot to get to. But I just want to check in, make sure this makes sense. Everybody, can I get some thumbs ups? Anybody? There we go. Appreciate that. All right. I see that there are some questions in the Q&A. If you have any other questions, there are a lot. So I'll try to get to them. But let's just move forward to the video track, and we'll try to do it all. And definitely, by the way, there's no time constraint, well, to a degree, if you come to the office hours. So I put that link into the chat. Definitely want to come to that at the end of the month. Great place to ask questions directly as well. Okay, so here we go. Talking about the video track. I know there's so many features. It's hard not to have a lot of questions, and I appreciate it. I'll try to get to as many of them as we can. So you go to open. Okay. Now this is how you would open up a Hindenburg session. So I could open up, one of these, but I'm actually going to open up something else here. I'm going to open up a video file. So in the format area, which is in the center of this window, if I say video files, I can now open up a video file. Okay. And so I have one here, and I'm going to open it up. And what this would do, this one's called Clipboard 2. I'm going to open it up, and this is what you're going to see. Get rid of the favorites window. You're going to see the audio of this. So that, you might notice, is not really a video. So this is the audio of that video, but you'll notice a few things. There's now a video track that's up here, and this is, occupies the first space. So once I've opened up a video, I now have the option of opening up, again, it's in the view drop-down menu, the video window, okay, which does two things. It has this thumbnail track that's up top here, and then a dockable video window, which you can resize and do other things with as well. Okay.
Or
you name them, click on the group something. It will. Okay. So the idea is that now you have this video, let's say group 4 here. Okay. Which you can edit and do manipulate the audio to. But I want to show you a feature that not many people are aware of, I think, which is really handy. This is a video with 2 people speaking. And so when you open up the file, it just gives you the audio of that video, which is just going to be 1 track of audio. But if you transcribe this, just as we did before, you'll have this new option, which is called, it's in the tools drop-down menu. It's called split by speaker. Now I can't do it live because it'll take too long, but I did just open this and I'm going to show you what this looks like after you've transcribed it. Okay. All right. So here's the same project, but I've transcribed it already. Okay. And then when I click on this region in the tools dropdown, I have this option that says split by speaker. And what this is going to do, hopefully you can see this here, is it's split the dialogue of the different people.
Is kind of like, think of it as like your white
do in a bit. They're all located and put them on different
files on your
tracks.
computer. You can.
It just does that automatically, which is super, super handy. That saves a lot of time in the editing process, and it even puts the music on another track as well. Okay, and other sound design. So very, very handy. So once again, transcribe your video, and then you go here to tools drop-down menu and you say split by speaker. It will split them onto different tracks. After that, you can do the thing, you can make them into different colors, which you would probably want to do just for organizing purposes, right? You probably want to do this kind of thing or whatever you're going to do. And then you'd have them in different colors and you do your stuff. And you'd start manipulating this. You'd start adding audio to it. You'd start maybe adding some effects, which we're going to talk about in just a second. So one thing to keep in mind, and then when you're done and you're ready to move on from this, what you will be ready to export. Okay, so now when you export this, you have all of these different options of things that you can do. But anyway, so this is just a way for you to take a video, clean it up, add and manipulate the audio however you would like to. But one thing to keep in mind, I should say, is that if you cut the audio here, the video track is standard because even though you can open video and do the stuff in it now, Hindenburg is not a video editor. So what that means is that if you start cutting the audio at this point, it's going to get out of sync with the video. The idea is not for it to be a video editor, but to take the audio from a video file and be able to open it up and manipulate it and do any of these things. Okay, so I'm going to move on just because I want to get through everything, and there's an awful lot. But we're just going to get to stuff because I want to leave some time for questions. Okay, so the last thing we'll talk about is why would you do that with a video file? Probably the main reason is to clean up the audio, and Hindenburg has some very, very handy effects and tools to help you deal with that. So this is the idea with cleaning up the audio, is that there would be some type of noisy sound or something or other you wanted to fix, and then you would add some of these effects, and then it would clean it up. And there are some helpful effects because, again, the idea with Hindenburg is that everything is designed to make your life easier, make this process go a little faster. So here we have some audio effects. Okay, so we'll put that on this track here. So the second track, the green one here, we have some effects. Now I clicked in this effects bin, which is on the left side of the track. Get rid of the colors window just for now. So on the left side of the track, this is the effects bin. When you click on that, you have 6 options for effects. In clicking on that, here are all third-party effects, so from other companies, which you can open up and put on. The top 5 are what come with Hindenburg. We're actually developing another plugin suite right now, but I can't tell you when that's going to be out, but it is in the works for sure. And then you'll take an effect, and the idea is that these are the effects that are they are very easy to use. Okay, so here's this bit of audio
to the clipboard from any files on your.
And then you could just adjust the amount of this. In this case, this is noise reduction and this one knob. What I would suggest, by the way, in just the methodology for this is I would make a selection and I would play only the part that's in the selection. You could do that by the way playback works is you press the space bar.
Also,
if you hold down the shift key and press the space bar, it'll just play the part that's in that affected area.
From any files on your computer.
Okay. So that's how I would do that. And then I would toggle the effect on or off, whatever it is. and I would turn up, the amount and adjust it from there. Noise reduction, by the way, is a double plugin. It's a dehum and a denoise. That's a very, very handy one. And then we have EQ and compression, which work the same way. But if you don't want to do any of those things and you want to be able to do this in a faster way and an easier way, and dealing with effects is not your thing, one of our special effects is this voice profiler, which is very handy. So the way that this works is you would, in this little drop-down menu that is next to the effects bin, you have access to this, and you can say, I want to learn this profile. And what you would do is you would play it a bit of audio
from any files on your computer. You can also import.
Okay, about let's just say 10 to 15 seconds of audio. It learns this profile. The idea is that you're putting in audio that you want to replicate moving forward. It's great for consistency if you've recorded something that sounds nice. And then if you did that, you would then, once you say learn profile, you'd have access to a couple of them. And then the generic one that comes with it sounds great. But then you would put on the profile, you'd say apply it, and then you'd have that profile with your customized EQ on the track. So that's where you could take your a video file with all of the audio there, and you could make it customize it and clean it up and all that stuff. Okay. One last thing, just cool. There's so many things. We'll have to. There are new ways now. You can put on effects chains and you can save it as a template. So much great stuff there. And so many exporting things. Like basically, the last part of this is that you can publish directly to your podcast hosting site. Okay, so you can, if it's Buzzsprout or anything like that, in Hindenburg, once you're done cleaning things up, you'd say publish, and you'd pick I'll add one here. You'd pick whichever, hosting site that you have. Okay. And then you would sign in with your username and password, and you would publish, and you can just save yourself the step of exporting and uploading. You can just publish directly there. And then again, you can export your manuscript and have all of that there. So hopefully we've tried to think of as many things as we could for what you have to actually do as a podcaster and audio producer. And that's the idea, is that the workflow and everything is hopefully as simplified as possible. So thanks so much. I'm going to get through as many of these Q&As questions as I can. Bear with me here. Keep bearing. You're doing great. Okay, hold on one sec here. All right. Let's look at this one first. Okay, do I need an update of Pro? And additionally, narrator for my audiobook recordings. What are the differences? So narrator is our other product line. Narrator is another DAW that is just made specifically for audiobooks. So that one is it works a little differently. It's stuff like dealing with ACX and publishing standards and just a different thing. And the idea is you open up a textbook inside of it, and you record, and it's syncing as you're going. So it just works a little differently. There's no like publish to podcast hosting sites. There's no video track, anything like there's no transcription. So it kind of just depends on what you're doing and which one of those is kind of the bigger workload, I guess, in your life right now. And so the other question there was upgrading. Like if you already had Pro, the old version of Pro, would you be able to upgrade? And yes, if you go to the website, there is a link there that is upgrade, and it gives you all the options. But yes, you will have to buy the new version, Pro 2, and then you can add transcription packages, whatever. But it's a different thing. Okay, so I'll put on another question here from John. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get to everything, folks, so I'm going to try. Okay, a couple of questions. The time code, the default settings are global elapsed time for a section. Okay, so this is a question about the time counter at the bottom. So let me just share my screen again and answer that. One sec here. Okay. All right. So the time counter is here on the transport bar at the bottom. This is the transport bar here. You can detach it, as I've done there. It doesn't really resize, but anyway, what the person was asking is that if when I make a selection, it shows the in marker, the point in the timeline, okay? And by the way, it's just there are many sort of points there, like after the decimal point. This is you only really need to worry about the first parts, okay? But in any case, so maybe it'd be easier if I went back to the beginning, okay? Okay, so here I am at the beginning, 0, 0, timeline. And if I make a selection, okay, it shows that 6 seconds in, what's going on here? 6 seconds in to 14 seconds. That's how long my selection is. And then at the bottom there, it shows you the total time. So that's about 8 seconds long. So that's what that refers to. And then if you wanted to do cutting, you'll see that that all goes away. But that's what the in and out markers, and you can see how much time that you have there. Okay, so that was that question. Okay, look to another one. Okay, how to cut from multiple tracks and save them for later in the clipboard. How to retrieve the selection and paste it back to the original multiple tracks. Okay, so this is multi-track editing that John's asking about, how to cut across multiple tracks and what you can do after that. So let me get back to sharing here. Great question. So yes, you could do multi-track editing in Hindenburg. Okay. Get rid of this. Okay. To beginning. So what that means is that if I make a selection here on this top track, I'd be cutting or doing anything on that top track. If I made that selection and then dragged down, I would be across the top track and this bottom track here. And you can see that here, okay? That these two are highlighted. When I'm just on the top track, only the top track is highlighted, okay? So give me one sec here. Mouse stopped working. All right, there we go. A lot easier. All right. So that's one way of doing it. You can drag across multiple tracks like that. Another way of doing it is that if you wanted to cut across all different tracks, you can do something here where you can select more than one track on the left side. If I click on one track to the next, to the next, to the next, it means I'm on that other track, which is highlighted in blue. If I hold down the Shift key, or the Command key would work as well, I could say, okay, on these 3 tracks, these are all selected. If I right click now, I have this option to do this thing called link tracks. If I link the tracks, now when I make a selection, it just automatically goes across all the different tracks. And from there, you could take that and copy it. You could take that and cut it. The question was also like, how do I take that into the clipboard? You could take that into the clipboard like this, copy it in there, and then drag it out, and it would maintain that space on all the different tracks. So that's how you do it. And then if you wanted to go back to being able to manipulate one track at a time, you would say unlink tracks, and then you'd have access to just moving one region around. All right, good question. Good question. And again, I'm not gonna be able to get to all of them, but I'll try to get to a few. Okay. Question here from Molly. Can you change the default transcription language? Yes, you can. So in the transcription option here, the language that it defaults to has to do with your version. So again, of course, you can just, change which language you would like here in this drop-down menu. But there are in the properties menu here in Hindenburg, I am sorry, not the properties menu. Oh yeah, properties menu. Okay, you can say language here is one option for your session properties. Also, whichever region you're in, because it's a global company, in your settings here, your station profile, which is in the advanced. So this is the settings, or if you're on Windows, this is in the options dropdown. Preferences here in the advanced, your station profile, either EU or UK or US, or other option, maybe potentially where you bought it. This will come up and it will affect that as well. Okay. But for me personally, I would just pick the language when I did the transcription. I just transcribed a bunch of Spanish language things. I don't speak Spanish, but it's pretty easy. So that's how I did it. Okay. All right. So a question from Jess. When will perpetual license owners be able to purchase transcription time directly through the website? So let me give you a little context to this first. Appreciate the question, Jess. So when you go to the website, we offer two ways of buying Hindenburg now. One of them, and the primary way is subscription. So you subscribe, say I want it for monthly or a yearly or whatever. Okay, so and then you say I want it for a year, and I'm going to get this transcription package with this many hours. That's how that works. There's another way of buying it, which is you just buy it outright, which is a perpetual license holder thing. And so when that happens, there's this kind of gap there, like, well, why can't I buy the transcription package directly from the site? The reason is that we do the transcription with another company and they bill us monthly. So we're working on it is the answer, and I sadly can't give you a time. The way that it works now is that when you want to add a transcription package, you have to contact sales and they set that up. We are currently working on the back end to have that automated. So that happens because basically what it means is that you will pay once for your perpetual license, but then you will have a monthly transcription fee that you will have to pay for. So them being separate things is why there's a delay on that. So sadly, I can't give you the exact date, but I promise you we are working on it. It is a good question. Okay, another question. Because I can't get to all of the features in this overview, but I would suggest if you would like more information, definitely come to the office hours, which we do monthly. And I'll put the link. I already put it in the chat. I'll put it in again to the next one. So one of the features that we have is a remote recording feature, meaning that if I was doing one of these and I had was having a podcast and we were doing it via Zoom, how would that work? So the question is, would I describe the best recording practices for multiple guests via Zoom? How would that part work? It's a great question, George. So I will do that. So the way that remote recording works, and I should say we are actually working on a high fidelity call recorder right now as well. And I can't tell you the timeline on that either, but we're working on it. And so what that means is that you would, kind of the way that Squadcast or Riverside or something works, but you'd be able to have that in Hindenburg. But as of now, that is not the situation. We do have many videos on this subject, and you can find them they're on the website. If you just do anything where it says Hindenburg and remote call or remote record, they'll come up. But the way that it works is, if you remember in the beginning, I showed you where you can select different microphones for different people. Okay, so let's say I was recording with two people in the same room. So I'll just do this with a new session. It's probably a little easier to see. Okay. Here's a new session. I'm recording, let's say, my audio here. So I'm going to pick my microphone on the top track. Okay. And that's me. And I'm ready to go. And let's say I picked a different microphone. For instance, my camera's microphone. which is going to sound terrible, but in any case, there it is. So this is the microphone I'm speaking into here, that one, and this is my camera. If I had two different people here, I would just select my microphone for me and my microphone and the microphone for you, put us on different tracks, and then when I record, we'd be recording, and both of us would be picked up on the different tracks. That's multi-track recording, just a basic thing of how that works. It works the same way in if you're recording a remote call, fundamentally. Okay, so but instead of there being this second microphone, you're going to select this option called Other Applications. I'm going to show you on Mac, but it works similarly on Windows. It just uses something called Communications Device. Okay, but on a Mac, it's you're going to select this Other Applications, and when you do that, that is going to open up our virtual audio device. And in Zoom or whatever, you would select the output of that, or the speakers is often called, to be Hindenburg. Then when you're on your track and you're recording, you would say record both of them, and then you'd have your voice up here and the Zoom track separately down there. So it's on the the second track here. So it should be noted that when you do that, that's just going to take all the output audio from Zoom. I'm just using Zoom as the example. It works the same for everything. So if you were having a Zoom call with 5 people, you're going to get one track with all of the audio on it. However, with Zoom, if you record the call, you do get people's different audio tracks as separate files. And the question was like best operating procedure, best way of doing that. For me personally, I would do this as a backup, and I would just take the audio from Zoom. It's put into a folder after you record the call, and I would just import that all from the beginning and have this remote call as a backup. But you could do it a few different ways. Okay. So great question. Probably going to do one or two more and then say, yeah, there are too many questions. And then say, please come to the office hours where we can, hold on one sec here, where we can, you can ask these questions directly, and we'll go into more detail. I'll ask, Ellen has a question here. I just want to get different folks. Is it possible to put effects only on one section and not the whole track? The answer to that is essentially no. There are kind of workarounds for it, but the answer is no. That is in other DAWs, that's called, like in Pro Tools Audio Suite, where you write the effect to that region and then you move on. The thing about that, which is a good feature and maybe something that we have broadly available down the road. It's once it's written to that region, that's kind of how that region is. You can always go back and like replace the region with the unaffected one, but that's the idea of like when you write an effect to a region. So there's definitely a time and a place for that. The workaround that I would say what you would do here is that piece of audio. I'll just show you as an example. Okay, so let's say this piece of audio here, okay? You wanted it to, and let's say you had 3 or 4 tracks. I would make an additional track, okay? And then I would take this either above it or below it, and I would take this audio and copy it and or move it. By the way, you can move audio by if you hold down Command or Control, depending on if you're Mac or Windows, and you press the up or down key, this will take the region you selected and put it onto a different track. So let's just say you wanted to affect just this word. I would personally take that, isolate it, and go like this. So it's exactly where it was in the timeline. There's no difference. And then I would take whatever effect you wanted to have on there and whatever, and you would do your thing to it. Okay. So that's the workaround to it. The alternative is of what they were saying is like if you just wanted to apply something right to this region and have it sort of on that region, it's that way, and then you move on to other things, and this just stays that way. you could put, effects that affect the track broadly, but that region is what it is. It doesn't really work that way. So that's my workaround. So just once again, isolate the part that you want to keep. I made another track, and then I would just use the arrow keys to know it's exactly in the right spot on the timeline. And I would just put it there and then put whatever effects you want to on it. Good question. Okay, so let's see. I think I'll answer one more question. Okay. What is Music Report used for? Good question. I didn't bring it up in this one because it's relevant for more our business customers who have recording studios and such. So let me just show you what it is first, and just tell you what if you're producing a podcast, it's probably not going to come up for you. But if you are working on any type of commercial situation, a radio station, which some of our customers are doing that, if you use music in your program and you drag it into your file, this gives you a report of everywhere where that music is, and it tells you the artist and title. So if you're using copyrighted music, you're putting a bunch of Beatles songs into the piece that you're making, you need to have a music report to know how much of that is being used, to know how much of to pay the artist, basically. For you doing independent podcasts, it's probably not going to come up that much. So that's what it is, and why it is there. So good question. All right, folks. There's so much there. We could go on forever, but well, I guess we can't. So please come to the office hours. In the main chat, I am going to put in those links again. Okay, so this is going to be the link for the Facebook community. Our next AMA session, which is for more voiceover talent people, but very interesting for search engine optimization info and all of that. And the office hours, those two events are happening at the end of the month. We're going to be, for those folks in Philadelphia, we're going to be at there's a broadcasting conference there. So if you're going to be there, come by. But anyway, so join the community for a replay. The AMA session at the end of the month, and the office hours where we'll show you some more tricks and different things. And if you have questions, you can talk to a Hindenburg trainer one-on-one. Okay, so thank you so much for all of the back and forth. Thank you so much for all the great questions, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye.